Dragons are magnificent creatures. In the world of Ice and Fire, we learn that the idea that men control dragons, or better yet, that the Valyrians control dragons, is nonsense. They are a power so great that humans were never capable of fully understanding or controlling such beasts, as we see in House of the Dragon episode 10, especially. Now in this video, I want to attempt to explain where I think not only where dragons come from, but also what they mean in this world that George R.R. Martin has created. I also want people watching these videos to be aware that everything I am referencing, everything that I'm referring to as like fact, it's all canon and can be found in the books. I do a piss poor job of doing this, but go and snag them over at Audible or at Amazon, right? The Song of Ice and Fire books, so that's Game of Thrones, Clash of Kings, Storm of Swords, A Feast for Crows, A Dance with Dragons, eventually Winds of Winter, and then A Dream of Spring. Eventually those two books will be coming out, but also you have A World of Ice and Fire. That's what I'm mostly referencing in this video. So I've linked them down below in the description. Go and get them on Audible or order a set of them on Amazon. It makes my videos much richer, right? Because I'm trying to teach everybody who hasn't read the books and also people that have read the books my theories, right? So it just makes it a lot easier, and also makes the show more enjoyable. Game of Thrones and then also House of the Dragon, if you've read the source material. Game of Thrones, you'll notice where it starts to fall off, and that's when they stopped following the book. So the books are amazing. Go and grab them, please. And also, thank you for taking your time to watch this content. Learn about the amazing escape from realism that is A Song of Ice and Fire through me. And also, if you already know about it, well, then it's like we're companions talking about something that, we both love. Also, before I go any further, please engage with my content if and only if you enjoy it. I am clearly being hit really hard by YouTube. What I mean by that is whenever I upload a video, most of my subscribers aren't alerted or don't get alerted until a long time after the video has already been uploaded, which in YouTube world, that means that my video is failing to get promoted in the algorithm because YouTube is not alerting my actual subscribers, people that want to see my videos, about my videos. So if you engage with my content, that helps to fight against whatever is happening on YouTube's end. It's a shadow ban. So please, when I say engage, I mean please slap a like on this video only if you enjoy my stuff. The like goal is going to be 420. And then also, two more things. Leave me your thoughts below about things that I mentioned in this video. And then lastly, please, this is the ultimate thing you can do here on YouTube to help me combat against what they're doing to my channel. Very simple. Click subscribe. Please click subscribe. Like I said, that's the best thing you can do when it comes to engaging with my videos. YouTube favors content creators with a larger audience, so if you enjoy my stuff, help me increase my presence, on YouTube. Please subscribe. Alright, so jumping right into it. Dragons are extremely intelligent, more so than humans. Same with a lot of the creatures in Martin's world, in the author's world, right? And I always refer to it as a Song of Ice and Fire world, or Planet Toast. That's what the fandom dubbed it, because all the continents have, os at the end of it. Westeros, Essos, Sothrios, right? A lot of the continents end like that, so they just named it Planet Toast. But I mentioned in my live stream last night that George confirms that his world is round in Fire and Blood. For the first time ever, he confirms that his world is round. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, go and watch my live stream from last night. It's 2.5 hours. I love doing those. But creatures in George R. So when George tells us the name of the planet that, Song of Ice and Fire is set on, we will call it that. But until then, it's the World of Ice and Fire, right? It's also a book that he wrote. But on this planet, creatures tend to be, certain ones are as intelligent as humans. But here's the thing. Nothing is as big or as powerful as a dragon, nor as intelligent, right? At least from what we've, had revealed to us in the books, right? So the fact that Valyrians were able to tame them or befriend them, dragons, is insane. I think they stroke a blood pact with them. Basically, dragons are the only creatures in A Song of Ice and Fire who cook their meat first, right? This adds to their intelligence. As a bit of a side note, though, I will say that Mormont's Raven, the talking one that never made an appearance on the show, He prefers cooked meat, which hints to the fact that he's really intelligent. Also, he can speak a bunch of words. Like, literally, he can pick and choose whatever he wants to say. It's usually the most impactful words of whatever Mormont is saying to Jon Snow, or whatever Jon Snow is saying to Mormont, or whoever is in the room with the bird's presence. Whatever their most impactful word from whatever sentence they said, Mormont's Raven does this, right? He literally can speak, and it's interesting, relates back to the intelligence thing, because dragons are some of the only creatures, animal-wise, that cook their meat. So it's just, going back to what I was saying, it's just it's incredible that the Valyrians were able to, tame them. But getting back on track, in the beginning, all right, the Valyrian freehold, it's said that Valyrian shepherds tamed dragons and used them to enslave people to mine gold in these shafts and mines that were near these active volcanoes known as the 14 Flames. It was in those mines that the power of the freehold was born. The shafts that the Valyrians mined were dangerous as hell. Quite literally, it was hell for those slaves. But all that effort and all that energy extorted from those poor individuals paid off immensely. Because it was built, right? It built the freehold into what it is. So in summarization, because I don't necessarily want to describe how the Valyrian freehold was in its entirety in this video, just think ancient Rome before the decline of Rome happened. Right, so it's very much a city. Whereas you could hold land and have a say so. You don't necessarily have to ride dragons, but I'll talk about that here in a second. As a super side note about the slaves, the working conditions were so bad that they would often wish for death rather than continue to work the mines for their Valyrian slave masters. This is actually when the Faceless Men were created. We find this out in A Feast for Crows through Arya's chapter. But basically, this is where this individual, the first Faceless Men, would go around and bring the gift of mercy to all the sick and dying slaves. Out of that, the Faceless Men Assassin Guild, in the House of Black and White and Bravos, was eventually founded. We find that out from the Kindly Man when he's talking to Arya in A Feast for Crows. So, getting back to the Valyrians, in the Freehold, we learn in A World of Ice and Fire, like I was just mentioning, that you don't necessarily have to be a dragon rider to sort of have a say-so in society. You just need to be a land-holding citizen. So yes, they sucked because they, would make slaves do these terrible things like mine gold and precious minerals, and that's how they built their wealth and power in Valyria. But they also had some sort of democratical elements to their society in the sense that if you held land in the Valyrian freehold, you had somewhat of a say-so in politics, and you can kind of vote on policy, but ultimately the dragon riding families, the dragon lords, the dragon knights of old, are the ones who had the most power, right? So in House of the Dragon, we learn that the fire mages, right, manipulated the fires of the volcanoes known as the 14 Flames, and they would use that magic to increase Valyria's power by birthing dragons and using other fire magics, right? So, Viserys tells this to Alicent in House of the Dragon. They likely even would have orgies, and they would probably, this is my theory, my opinion, right? I think they would use dragon sperm in place of regular jizz, okay? So hear me out. You can't phonetically or anatomically have sexual intercourse with a dragon. So instead of actually having the dragons participate, the dragons would be there watching, but they would somehow extract semen from the dragon and use those, and they would make creatures that look very similar to Visenya, Rhaenyra's baby that was born in House of the Dragon, episode 10, right? So, it allowed them to mate with them and create that bond initially, right? But let me continue on here. This is how they controlled the dragons to such an extent. They literally were a part of them. And I personally believe that the dragons descended from those Valyrian orgies, like the dragons that were birthed from those Valyrian orgies where dragon sperm was used, are the ones that were brought over and used to conquer Westeros. So Balerion the Black Dread and some of the other clutches of eggs and all these things that, existed around before the doom of Valyria, like Balerion himself. He is a product of those Valyrian dragon orgies in which dragon sperm would be used to impregnate certain Valyrian women. So in short, anyone with a drop, just a tiny drop of that Valyrian dragon blood, of those dragons that were made from those orgies, that the dragons that were tamed by, okay, I'm getting too deep into this, right? You should be able to mount a dragon, Okay, so speaking of having sexual intercourse with dragons, I also think that the Valyrians would breed dragons of old with specific colors for specific tasks. And I know I'm kind of all over the place in this video, but I haven't written a script in a while, and my last 2 videos, including this one, have been scripted. So I'm trying to stay more focused by writing scripts, right? So for an example, black dragons, getting back to how I think the dragons are bred for specific colors, very much like how we turned wolves into chihuahuas. I've mentioned this theory a bunch, so I'm just going to summarize it here. For an example, black dragons were bred for their size and their power. We have Valyrian the Black Dread and Drogon as examples. Then red dragons were bred for war. We have Caraxes as a prime example of that. Caraxes versus Vhagar. Vhagar is like twice the size of Caraxes, but Caraxes ultimately wins because Caraxes still survives the fight. Where Vhagar dies the fight, Caraxes eventually does die, but lives long enough to pull himself ashore, right? And then we also have Meleys. Meleys, right, in House of the Dragon is another red dragon, but canonically, when RHAENYS goes and fights at Rook's Rest, she's fighting against Vhagar and Sunfire and gravely injures Sunfire to the point where Sunfire has to take almost a year to heal, right? And she, takes out the king for a good while as well. So red dragons, in my opinion, were bred for war, right? Like I said, we have Meleys and Caraxes as points of that. Those points lend credence to my dragon dog breeding theory. And then also, as a side note, golden dragons were likely bred for how they look. Like how we do with certain dogs with their coats of fur and their certain colorings and stuff. This is what I think the golden dragons descend from. Now, I haven't worked out every single color because there's tons of colors, but for the most part, black dragons were bred for their size, right? So they were technically bred for war too, but it's more so their size and power. It's a statement. If you see a dragon that large, you're probably going to tuck tail and turn tail and run. Then red dragons specifically were bred for fighting, so they were very much warrior dragons. And then things like golden dragons, so you have Syrax, and then also Sunfire the Golden, the most beautiful dragon to ever have existed. He descends from a line of dragons, the golden dragons, that were bred for looks, in my opinion. But before I get too sidetracked, I mentioned in the beginning of this video how I would try and explain where I think dragons come from originally. Here's the thing, though. The structures around all of, this world that encompasses George's creation, right? There are structures like the 5 forts, then also the high tower itself in Old Town, and then the entirety of Asshai, and then the black walls of Volantis. All of these things, when you try to determine how dragons were originally created, it makes determining that trivial, because those things are far older than any of the known history that we have told through the perspective of the Maesters, so it's sort of pointless. Just know this: in George R. Martin's world, dragons have always existed alongside the elder races, so that's the giants, the children of the forest, and then also they've existed alongside those, and then also primordial humans. It's just that the Valyrians of old learned how to bond with these dragons through those dragon orgies, right, from a race of people lost to time. That's mentioned specifically in A World of Ice and Fire. Some maesters think that a long-forgotten race of people taught the Valyrians how to use dragons, but then they also contradict themselves by saying, if that's true, then why didn't that race of people initially take over the world using the dragons? Well, listen here, you dumb maesters. They did. Their name was just forgotten. They conquered most of the known world, and, helped forge the wall in Westeros. It's just kind of crazy. George is just trying to make you think mysterious as possible. No. So what happens is those people were dying out, found the Valyrians, decided to breed with the Valyrians. That's why the Valyrians have certain features like, white hair and purple eyes in the books, gold and silvery white hair in the books, and then, like I said, purple eyes. That's because they bred with those original people who did conquer the world. And much like everything that comes after something great, it's never as good as the original. So that original race of people who conquered the world using dragons conquered the entire planet. But then, like everything, they started to decline. So instead of, just allowing themselves to die out, and same with the power of dragons, they taught the Valyrian shepherds how to do that. The Valyrian shepherds started to conquer the world, but the freehold got too big for its own breeches, and then it self-destructed in what's known as, the Doom of Valyria. So, in summary, I believe dragons have always been in the world of Westeros and Ethos and Soltharios and Ulthos, right? They've always been there. It's just that everything is so old, they lost track of people, places, and events. If you enjoyed this video, please consider joining my Patreon. Over there, I do the same type of content, just way more frequently. Right now, it's audio only, but once I eventually reach my goals on Patreon, I will begin to upload exclusive videos. It's just that Patreon takes more of your revenue to upload videos to their platform. Right now, I have over 3 hours of audio content. There are some video clips uploaded there as well, but it's all exclusive to that platform. That's linked down below in the description, and you can join for $1. And ultimately, that's my way to not worry about YouTube basically playing Overlord over my videos, and I'm just a nerdy dude talking about nerdy stuff in a make-believe land that has dragons. So it's kind of crazy they would even think to shadow ban my channel. Please consider joining my Patreon. It's linked down below. And if you can't do that, well then thank you for watching. So honestly, it's the best thing you can do here on YouTube is watch, subscribe, leave a like, and then make sure you leave me your thoughts on what I said down below. Special thank you to Brandy Reed, as she is a member of what's known as my Dragonlord tier over on Patreon. And then also a special thank you to the North Must Remember, Heart of Inspiration, and Breanne Johnson, as they're all members of a tier on my Patreon known as Dragon Knights. If you want to join, remember that's linked down below in the description. And also, thank you for watching. Please engage with this video by commenting, liking, and subscribe. Thank you so much again for watching. Salrizas pusdare, exos daor alonat.